Thank you for joining our webinar, Build Our Future. I'm Ken Hiraki, Hawaii Realtors Director of Government Relations, and I will serve as a facilitator of this webinar. It is estimated that in order to keep up with demand, Hawaii needs to build up to 46,000 additional homes by the end of this decade. This webinar will take a peek at some of the most exciting and impactful new housing developments planned for the coming years. These developments will not only increase our housing supply, but will also serve as an economic stimulus and provide new opportunities for our industry. Please note that this session will be recorded for future replay, and we will take questions at the end after all our speakers are done. Please type in your questions in the question box. So let's begin. Our first speaker is Chris Deuchar, Senior Director of Planning and Development for Kamehameha School's Commercial Real Estate Division. Chris was previously the founding principal and managing member of Foreign Partners and U.S. Pacific Development. He also worked previously for Grubb & Ellis in Phoenix. So his presentation will cover Kamehameha School's planned development along the rail line covering Waipahu, Wahiawa, Pearl Ridge, Kapalama, Kaka'ako, and the University of Hawaii area. Chris, take it away, Chris.
Mahalo, Ken, and aloha kako, everyone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share the work that we're all doing here at Kamehameha Schools and working to address some of the issues that Ken had talked about, particularly as it relates to housing. So as I kick off here, let me share my screen. Ken, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So first thing as we talk about our work here at KS, I would be remiss if I didn't share with you and talk about Princess Bernice Pauahi. And, because it really is because of her that, enables us to do everything that we do. She was the last royal lineal descendant, direct descendant of King Kamehameha the Great. And it really was her vision that, created the endowment that has created Kamehameha Schools. And for those of you, that aren't aware, obviously in her lifetime, she saw a significant amount of change happen in her islands and to her people. Just as context, when contact with Captain Cook happened in 1831, in 1778, the population of Hawaii was estimated to be about 800,000 Native Hawaiians throughout the islands. When she was born in 1831, Princess Pauahi, the population had dropped to 124,000 people. A huge, significant tragedy that happened, and obviously the population was decimated. Health reasons, with Western diseases that had come to the islands, and it had a huge impact on the culture, the language, and the identity of the Native Hawaiian people during her lifetime. So it was 124,000 when she was born. When she passed away in 1884, the population of Native Hawaiians had dropped to 44,000. So for her, and she had the opportunity to take the crown and rule the people, but instead she had the vision and the foresight that she wanted to embark to restore her people and the culture and their identities through education. And so she established Kamehameha Schools through, bequeathing her lands to the trust. She served as a change agent, a steward of Hawaiian education and the culture, and really moved to restore her people through that. The lands, as we all know, Kamehameha Schools, we own a great deal of land throughout the islands. About 363,000 acres. We're the largest private landowner. And most of those lands you can see here from the different ali'i that were passed to Pauahi, and you can see where they are respectively on the islands. Majority of the lands are on the islands of Oahu and Hawaii, but we do have ownership on all of the islands. So for us, as I said, even our commercial real estate group, everything that we do is geared towards fulfilling Pauahi's vision. And traditionally how that worked is our commercial real estate lands, the returns and the value of those lands enable us to spend money on education, and primarily initially on our first campus in Kapalama, and then eventually to our other two campuses, one on Maui and one on the Big Island. What's happened is over the last several years, we've sort of embarked on a greater drives so that we can hit multiple bottom lines. And, it really was established through trustees, through our alumni, that we created this Vision 2040, which within a generation that we'd see a thriving Lahui where our learners would achieve post-secondary educational success. They'd be grounded in Christian and Hawaiian values and will be the leaders who contribute to their communities, both locally and globally. So it was a push to really lift the entire Lahui and to look at how we can do that through our primary education, but also through some other avenues. And to that end, if you look, directly on our campuses, we support about 7,000 students on our 3 campuses and 29 preschools. In addition to that, we've actually served about 85,000 learners overall in 2019. About 13,000 of them were through extension education. But in addition to that, we do a whole lot more within the community. We've served over 58,000 other learners and their families through our community investing, which total about $85 million last fiscal year. So a lot of people don't realize that in addition to our direct campuses, we put a lot of money in the community. We look to leverage the dollars that we have so that we can do more and have a greater impact. And how do we do that? I talked about before our commercial real estate. Our entire portfolio is about 12.1 billion. And roughly a third of that is in our commercial real estate and 2/3 is in our financial assets division. As I said, again, that portfolio on the real estate side is the 363,000 acres that we own. So when you look at that commercial portfolio, as I said, about a third of it's in Hawaiian real estate, 2/3 in our financial assets. What we do is on a rolling 20-quarter period, we spend 4% on our mission, and which includes, as you can see on the right, campus-based preschool programs, scholarships, community investing, as I mentioned, educational support, and then also stewardship of our non-commercial lands. So the more that we can grow the endowment, the more that we can earn, the more that we can spend on our mission, on the education, and also some of these other community investments we make. Our commercial portfolio, if you look at this center graph here, only about 1% of the entire land portfolio creates that roughly $3.5 billion. So, a lot of our agricultural lands, the 48% we have in the conservation lands, we actually are spending money to steward the INA that we have in our entire INA portfolio, roughly to the tune of about $10 million a year. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. That's anything from native Hawaiian forest management, water conservation areas, agriculture, et cetera. So again, only about 1% makes up that value, that $3.5 billion. If you look at our total portfolio on the left, the classification, about 80% of it is made up of ground leases, and just about 19% is in space leases that we actually, control both the fee and the former leasehold improvements, the shopping center itself, the industrial building, the office building, what have you. So what's interesting about that is if you think about a lot of the ground leases that we've had over the years, many of them, are 40, 50, 60 years. And a lot of them were written in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. So we're we're getting a lot of these properties back and getting the opportunity to reshape our portfolio. And I'll share more about that with you momentarily. From the makeup of our commercial portfolio, you can see on the bottom right here, retail and hospitality make up 56% of the portfolio, the bulk of it. But we are pretty well diversified. We have industrial, multifamily, mixed use, land, office, et cetera. So again, we come back to why do we manage real estate? As I mentioned, all the dollars and the value that we can create and bring in, we get to spend on our mission. But when we talk about our Vision 2040 and striving towards a thriving Lahui, there's other things that come into account aside from just the education. And first and foremost, when we're managing our real estate, we're doing it through our 5 values. So we're not only looking at the economic returns, we look at the impacts that we have on the environment, the community, the culture, and the education, all the things that we believe, revolve around the keiki and have an impact there. We just started this year, we've been doing it for many years, but we're actually working to measure the impact that we have. And we've embraced the Aloha Plus Challenge, which is derived from the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we're in the process now of measuring our entire portfolio, the entire INA framework, not just our commercial, but our conservation lands and our ag lands. And we're looking for ways that we can improve and do more, and for areas that we want to focus on, like food systems here in Hawaii, water management, and again, as always, our education. So when we look at our entire portfolio, and as we move forward, generally speaking, when you're trying to create better returns, you look to where you have great challenges and work to surmount those challenges and create opportunities to create better value. So we track a whole lot of things internally here at Kamehameha Schools, but one of the big ones is, our CPI, the cost of living. And if you look back, tracking it from 1984 through 2018, this covers this chart, energy, apparel, food and beverage, housing, medical care, transportation, a lot of the large components of a household income. Housing, as we all know, is one of the largest. There's people in Honolulu that are spending, upwards of 50% or more of their income on housing. And so that has an exponential impact on, the ability to live in Honolulu. When you look at, you match that with housing, and you think about 1959 when we became a state, the average income was about $21,000 for a family of 4. And the average cost of a home, single family home, was about $6,300. You flash forward to 2019 and we've got, an average median income of $101,000, and you got an average single family home price at almost $800,000. So, it has, as I said, it's exponentially become tougher and tougher to live here. We also look at, Paul Brubaker does this a lot, and I thought it was a good slide, but we look at the number of permits that have been issued for single family homes in Hawaii since statehood. And as you can see, sort of that lavender background area there, we really peaked in the 70s and at about 22,000 permits a year. You look from 2005 on, or even, basically from like 1990 on, we've really been averaging somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 permits, or about 2,500. We're simply not building enough housing. I mean, there's a lot of elements to why the cost of living here, or why the cost of housing is so bad in our housing crisis. But this, I think, is one of the main reasons. We're just simply not building enough housing, as we all know. So we also look at our entire portfolio from a regional approach, right? So we've got lands, obviously all across the state and here in Honolulu, from, Waiava all the way to Kahala to Kaneohe, North Shore. But we try and look at it from a balanced portfolio standpoint. And, there's obviously market areas where there's different needs. And those might be, they need more educational outlets or more housing or infrastructure, business, health, INA. There's a whole host of things. So we try and balance the portfolio. So we might look at Waipahu as an example and say there's more affordable housing needed there, and we're going to focus on that. And whereas we might look at Kahala and say, well, we're going to maximize our returns there so that we're able to fund the investments in Waipahu or in other areas where they're more challenging. So that brings us to our urban core strategy, which there's a lot of stars that are aligning here that has been enabled this strategy to come together in this outlook. As I mentioned before, we are, we're working to get more out of the portfolio, because the more value that we can create, the more we can spend on our mission and in the community. And the other opportunities I mentioned was that a lot of our ground leases are expiring in the next 10 years. And they're in areas that correspond to where we have this opportunity with what's been happening with the rail. So if you look here, the green areas that are highlighted are lands, are RKS lands. Obviously, we've got the rail line here and all of the different TOD areas. So again, we've got these opportunities where we're getting these lands back, and we can reshape our portfolio and think about how we want to steward these market areas and develop these lands to maximize our returns, but to maximize our values and the other benefits that we get within the communities. So starting with that, if you look at the rail line, our first stop, so to speak, for our lands right adjacent to rail stations is here in Waipahu. So many of you are sure familiar with this. This is an older photo. Actually, the rail station is built now. And here we have the bus depot area, but we're at Farrington and Old Depot Road here in Hikimoi. We have about 3.5 acres that we own. Times is, Market is here, the Sunita building's here. And we're in the process of actually purchasing this parcel right here. And we're going to develop affordable housing. We've partnered with High Ridge Costa, who is actually one of the largest affordable home developers in the country. They're actually doing right now Hale Mohana in Kapolei. And we selected them about a year ago. They went through a long process. We interviewed a lot of people, and the primary reason we selected them was their values matched ours. But we are planning on building approximately 500 affordable rental units, and about 176 of them will be Kapuna housing for seniors. These are at 60% AMI and below, so these are truly affordable units that this community, and frankly, many of our communities in Hawaii needs. The plans will include a ground floor commercial where we're going to retain, KS will retain and develop the ground floor commercial. We're working with Times to keep them there and really create a Main Street-esque development, a true downtown for Waipahu. So we are in the process of getting ready to go to the neighborhood board and beginning our outreach. So you'll hear more about that in the coming months and see some initial renderings and site plans, et cetera. But I just wanted to share that with you now. There's more to come, and you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. Waiaba, obviously a huge holding for us and a very long-term plan. This is a property that, KS, as many of you may remember, it was a Gentry deal for a while. And we took the property back in 2009 and have been working on our master planning there for some time. We're in the midst of continuing that planning, and we're working on our solar farm there here now, as well as a second phase of the solar. But ultimately, this project, it's very long-term. Entitlement-wise, we're looking at least 5 to 10 years of additional, entitlements, community outreach. We've got to find a partner that we'll work with throughout this development process. But ultimately, it's about 2,000 acres, somewhere between maybe 10 to as much as 12,000 homes developed over a 40 to 50 year period, and about 500,000 square feet of commercial. The next stop, if you will, would be our Kamehameha lands. And actually Waiava, the bottom part of Waiava is within the half-mile TOD area. So although we're not really transit-oriented development, we're kind of transit proximate there, and we'll create programs that establish where the community have direct systems down to the rail stops at Pearl Highlands. Here at Kamehameha, we have, obviously we own the Pearl Ridge Mall, the fee underneath it, and Pearl Kai Country Club, which we actually just took back late last year, and we are managing that property again now. Up front on the Mackay side, we have about 17.5 acres that we're in the process of evaluating and doing our initial planning on right now. Obviously the TOD station you can see here being built. So this is really a unique opportunity. The Live, Work, Play IAEA project that Stanford is working on now is here. So there's a whole lot of development opportunities in this area that we're excited about. Here's another look at it, and you can see our actual ownership of the lands. So then continuing on the rail, our next stop would be Kapalamakai. This is actually our largest urban land holdings, about 104 acres in the area. And our team here at CAS has been working on master planning this area for the last little over 5 years. And this gives you an idea of sort of the land ownership in the area. Some of our CAS lands are in blue, but the city and county, Castle and Cook, the state, DHHL, there's a lot of other ownership in the area that are focused on looking at transit-oriented development. Right next to the community college, the rail stop is planned to go here. And our first phase within Kapalamakai is along Dillingham and Kohu Street. These are some initial renderings. These are actually being updated and changed now slightly, but ultimately we're looking at about 5,000 homes, and we're really targeting the AMI levels at 80 to 140%, which some call GAP, some call workforce housing or attainable housing. In addition to that, we will be doing affordable rentals, looking at LIHTC programs so that we can get to that 60% AMI and below on some of these projects. We're going to be looking to add about 7 acres of green space, somewhere around 700 to 1 million square feet of retail. And then obviously we have quite a bit of industrial in the area now that we'll retain and clean up and reposition. Here's one of the initial renderings looking EVA, and you can see obviously this shows the canal. Right now there's an EIS that's out for comment on the canal project that the city's considering doing. And you can see here the rail stop actually would be just right here. And we are in discussion right now on this block with a developer to do, again, that sort of workforce affordable for sale project. And we're really excited about that. Our Kakako, obviously our first master plan here on Oahu that was approved in 2009. The entire area for us makes up almost 30 acres, about 28.9 acres. And, we've been working on this for many years. Obviously, Keaho, 400 Kave, the collection, salt, have all been completed. And we're focusing now on our increment 2, which, as a matter of fact, there's a town hall meeting today where we'll be sharing more renderings and other items, and then a neighborhood board meeting on the 26th. But in essence, we are kicking off blocks C, D, G, H, and I, and we're going back to HCDA asking them for some amendments to extend our master plan, clarify a few things within our master plan, but we're really excited. We're talking to several developers about all of these blocks and launching the development on them, hopeful to get shovels in the ground in the next 2 years, 2 to 5 years. The idea for the area, obviously, in our original master plan, Cook Street was a big portion of that as a connection point between Gateway and Mother Waldron Park. We're going to continue with that. We have big plans for our commercial at the ground level. This really will become a PICO area for us that ties salt, as well as actually we're working with Howard Hughes, Race and his team on a connection point from the city's base yard, opening that up so that the two master plans can connect. From a retail perspective, this is kind of an early rendering. This is changing, but you can see here we're working on a large plaza area at this corner, roughly 25,000 feet, another 15,000 square foot plaza roughly here. And Cook Street has 40-foot setbacks. So this is really going to be sort of a grand, very pedestrian friendly gathering area for the community and for all of, Oahu. So we're really excited about that. And again, I would share more with you, but we have our town hall is kind of the first peak this evening. So more to come on that. And then Mo'iliili, obviously we have, our lands adjacent to the university. We've been working on this for some time, and I think we're getting closer to being able to announce plans. We've had, we're working with a student housing developer, a rental apartment developer, and a limited service hotel. So this is a shot looking Mackay, one of the early kind of initial renderings, which this is being updated and changed, but we're really looking to create a community for the university and for Lower Manoa. And we think it's a great opportunity that the apartments we're looking at doing are for the most part affordable. And then of course we have our Kahala lands, which I think if for those of you that live in the area or have been out there recently, we just recently completed Kuono Marketplace. And we're excited about that. Foodlands market concept is done, they've done a unique smaller footprint here, but they're doing well. And, we're looking at some of our other land in the areas at opportunities that we have. And then of course we have Heia. Now these Hawaii Kai and Kahala and Heia are really not part of the rail, but these are areas that we are looking at the lands now and sort of figuring out initial plans for the future as a lot of these ground leases come back to us. And so with that, again, for us, just tying it back, it really is about the children for us and our mission. And, you think about, we can educate, Hawaii's children, but if when they get out of school, they don't have the opportunity for jobs or affordable housing or a way to get started here, we're going to lose them. And they're going to become the leaders of Phoenix or Reno or California. So it is a priority for us, as we move forward to solve some of these issues while also driving our returns so that we can do more. So mahalo again, Ken, for the opportunity, and Christina for putting this together, and everyone. So thank you and aloha.
Thanks, Chris. Wow, exciting projects ahead. Okay, next we'll switch it over to Ian Hirokawa, who is the Special Projects Coordinator for the Department of Land and Natural Resources. His work involves a range of issues regarding the management and utilization of public lands, including shoreline certification and submerged lands, real estate acquisitions and dispositions, and legislative matters. He joined the department as a project development specialist working on land acquisitions funded by the Legacy Land Conservation Program. So he'll be talking about the DLNR's East Kapolei project, covers about 169 acres, and the plans are to build over 1,000 workforce rentals. Okay, Ian, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you again for the invitation to speak today, and thank you everybody for logging in and listening in on the presentation. So very grateful to be here. My name is Ian Hirokawa. As Ken said, I'm the Special Projects Coordinator, and I work at the Land Division at DLNR. On this first slide, I'm just going to put up my email. So if some people have any questions or would like to discuss the project further with me, you're free to email me, and we can discuss. Before I get into the specifics of the project, I just kind of wanted to give an overview of what DLNR does and how this project fits into how we operate. For those of you not familiar, so basically the DLNR, the Department of Land and Natural Resources, is tasked with its constitutional mandates to manage and protect the state's natural, cultural, historical, and recreational resources, and has numerous programs to achieve that or pursue that mandate. So I myself work in the Land Division, which is a division within DLNR. What we do at Land Division is we manage what's known as the state's unencumbered public lands. So it's really lands not used for any other purpose. So we wouldn't manage lands that are used for schools, hospitals, roads, and so on. What we have is sort of what we would call almost the leftovers for what other agencies aren't using. So that's what we do. So in some cases, though, in the management of these public lands or unencumbered public lands, we do seek to develop and lease them out when appropriate to generate revenues to support the department's programs. Just to let you know, DLNR gets, I think, about around 1%, give or take a little bit, but around 1% of the state's total budget. And given that DLNR generates a lot of its own revenues, it gets an even smaller share of general fund revenues. So, we have quite an extensive mission, and we generally self-supportive, but we don't get a lot of we're largely self-supporting. We don't get a lot of general fund support. So so under our Land Division, we have what's known as the Special Land Development Fund. That's it takes in a lot of these lease revenues and helps fund not only Land Division's operations, but the operations of the Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands, Division of Forestry and Wildlife, the state's dam safety program, Commission on Water Resource Management, Historic Preservation. It funds a lot of department priorities. And really, so what we're looking to do is, our lands that we have in East Kapolei, we're looking to develop them to largely, primarily to generate revenues to support department operations in the future, but also to fulfill what we view as significant or important public purposes. So, with that background, we can go into the specifics here. So DLNR has 4 parcels around the adjacent to the UH West Oahu rail station. As you can see, so what we have is we have 4 parcels here. Where my cursor is, that's the parcel that's right adjacent to the UH West Oahu rail station along Kualakai Parkway. Just Malka of that, we have a second parcel on Malka of Farrington Highway between Farrington and H1. And to the west of that, we have 2 additional parcels, just Malka of Farrington and Makai of H1. So our project, and this is our conceptual project map right here. What we have planned is a TOD mixed use development for that parcel next to the rail station. Multifamily rental units for part of the Malka parcel, along with some light industrial uses. And on the west parcels, we also have additional light industrial uses planned. So, what we see is that we think that these will not only serve to generate revenues for the department, but to fulfill an important public purpose of really being like a foundation for the community out in East Kapolei. So, we would not only would provide revenues, but hopefully good jobs. The light industrial use of the land would provide, some good jobs for people, as well as the TOD, office and medical uses that we would, it would be a job center, and also with the housing, a support for the community as well. So in addition to our own revenues. So as Ken noted, we're planning to develop 1,000 affordable rental units. We are doing rental units because we cannot, we have a very strong policy against selling land. So, basically divesting this fee interest in land. So we don't really sell that. And we have a strong policy against it. And also statutorily, I think any fee sale requires something in the order of 2/3 approval by both houses of the legislature. So in addition to our policy, it's virtually impossible to sell land. So that's why a lot of our developments are done through long-term ground leases up to 65 years. And that's why we're planning for the rentals and not fee sales. So basically with respect to the housing component, since that's kind of what we're talking about today, the TOD parcel represents phase 1 of our project. That's the kind of the highest priority. And then the Malka parcel with the remaining housing units represent phase 2. And phase 3 would be the remaining light industrial properties. So just to give you some background, so phase 1 is the Keonei station area. That's again next to the station. We have a transit-oriented mixed-use hub along with proposed commercial, hotel, medical, rental housing. And that one we would that one we're looking at doing, I think, a little higher AMI, but more, I think what we referred to before as workforce housing, but it would still be affordable. Phase 2, which was that Malka parcel, we're going to do, as I noted, light industrial uses and additional rental housing. That would be looking at doing lower AMI, the more 30 to 60% AMI to serve those, to serve that population as well. And the workforce housing, we're looking at, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but we're looking at about 720 units on the TOD parcel and additional 280 on the Malka parcel. So we're looking at total of 1,000 rental units. Right now, project is really in the planning stages right now. We're not really ready to start even doing an RFP just yet. We're still in the planning stages. We completed or we're in the process of completing a strategic development plan. The draft was approved by the Board of Land and Natural Resources on October 23rd, 2020. And right now we got approval. We do have funds to conduct an environmental impact statement. So that was the release of funds was approved by the Budget and Finance and the governor. So we are seeking to complete the contract for that and move forward with the EIS. So more so in the planning stages. There's a lot of steps that need to be done before we actually can, go out for an RFP or other solicitation for the project. We need to finalize our plan, conduct our EIS. We're looking also at a potential land exchange and acquisition with D.R. Horton, who's the developer of the neighboring Ho'opili project. What we're trying to do is expand the area of our TOD parcel to give us a little bit more, add a larger area that would essentially give us frontage along the interior Ho'opili road. So if I'll go back to kind of show you the idea here. So what this crosshatch area you see in the plan, that's our land sort of our property ends right around at this boundary here. So what we're trying to do is through land exchanges acquire this area to bring us, possibly give us frontage along the interior road 2 on Ho'opili. So that would make our, hopefully make our parcel more attractive for our developer. In exchange, we're looking at possibly granting to Horton this section here of our light industrial lands. But, you know, we're still working with Horton on that. Other issues we need to resolve is we need to work with Hart for a long-term disposition. The station park and ride facility is going to be located on a TOD parcel, and it's a 1,000 stall. It's 1,000 stalls, so you know that's part of that we'll just have to incorporate that into any future development. We are retaining though the development rights, so it's not like it's going to be a fixed at grade park and ride facility. If a developer comes in and decides, okay, you know, we can build a new parking structure and integrate those stalls to accommodate development, we'll be able to do that. So it won't hamper our ability to utilize a lot aside from providing the 1,000 stalls. We're also looking to meet with other agencies to explore potential collaborative projects, HHFDC among them, especially to help out with the housing project. You know, DLNR is not a developer of affordable housing. So we would, you know, our goal is to partner with an agency with the appropriate expertise to get that successfully done. We're also working with, excuse me, the Department of Transportation Highways regarding the Farrington Highway widening project. That's another issue we have to resolve. Finally, we have more long-term outstanding issues. The major one is addressing our infrastructure needs. You know, infrastructure is going to be come at a great cost, and we frankly don't. It's not like the department has the money to fund those, and yet at the same time, we feel that just passing that on to a developer, that's not something we want to do if we can avoid it, because that just, you know, I think we just curtail the potential interest in the site. So, you know, we're trying to work together with other agencies, and the department is also a member of the TOD council that's working to address the state TOD council that's working to address these infrastructure issues, and hopefully we can collaborate on getting funding to, you know, to address the area, not just our project, but the entire area. We can be a part of that. Also, in addition to, you know, infrastructure issues like water or wastewater, there are two gulches that essentially run through our property, the Kaloi and Hunehune Gulch. And Kaloi Gulch impacts the parcel with the Malka parcel with the affordable housing project. So it runs right here. What we tried to do is pick an alternative that would avoid having to realign the gulch, because that would, you know, be a much greater cost, but we would still need support or funding support to, you know, we would have to definitely improve it for any development of the property. Right now, it's just an open ditch. So that would be included as, you know, some of the costs that would be needed to address. So to develop that parcel. The other issue, or one of the more immediate issue really, is approval of the East Kapolei neighborhood TOD plan. And, you know, we've been working with the City Department of Planning and Permitting on you know, getting that through. Notice that it's right now, I believe it passed the Planning Commission, and it's before the council, or is supposed to go before the council for final approval. The good news is that DPP did incorporate our plan pretty much as we've gone over today, and as we've envisioned it, into the East Kapolei neighborhood TOD plan. So if it's approved, you know, we have essentially you know, we're set to go to pursue the plan as we envision. Just to kind of give you maybe some idea of timelines, you know, right now they're very fluid, especially given the state's condition, you know, due to the pandemic and the, you know, the financial, the sort of fiscal burdens it's now carrying. But we're trying to get phase one, we're timing it for sometime between now and 2029, and which is the TOD parcel. Phase two with the other affordable housing project the following decade, so 2030 to 2039. Of course, you know, I'm going to qualify that to say that it's all subject to change. Who knows what will happen in the next few years, but that's the goal we're sticking to get this thing moving. So anyway, that's basically a short overview. If there's any questions, like I said, I'll go back and my email here. You can email me or ask. You can email me there at ian.c.hirokawa@hawaii.gov, and also or ask questions here. And I'd be happy to speak with anybody about the project. So again, appreciate it and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian, very much. Fantastic presentation. So we're going to leave Oahu. We're going to head on over to Maui. Then we're going to head over to Kauai. And then we're going to head back to Oahu and end up in Kaka'ako. So let's get to Maui. Lawrence Carnicelli, who is the VP of Development for Kuikahi Affordable Housing Group and Chair of the Maui Planning Commission. He previously worked for the Hale Anuenue Affordable Housing Group, Olowalu Elua Associates, and for the Realtors Association of Maui as their Government Affairs Director. He is also a board member for Housing Advocates Face Maui and Stand Up Maui. Okay, Lawrence, take it away.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for putting me after KS and DLNR. That was great of you. Appreciate it. Ken asked me to speak for 5 minutes, and I think what I'll do is I'll try to do the best I can to stay under 5 minutes. And if you guys have more questions, then you can. Obviously, on Maui, we have some different challenges than Oahu does. And just watching those two presentations alone, I think the biggest thing that we can talk about is just scale. Before I talk about the couple of projects that I'm going to talk about is, here on Maui, we have two projects that are kind of infamous. One is Pulelehua, which is over on the west side. And that's about 1,200 units. That's 1,600 units, about 300 acres. And that's a huge project for us. Part of our challenges, and without getting into all the details, it's been fully entitled for 10 years and it still hasn't been built. And so we just have our challenges that way. I'll just sort of leave it at that. Waikapu Town, everybody knows about. That's 1,200 acres, a master planned community. Mike Atherton is the lead on that. They're now in their 13th year to try to get entitlements, and they still have $50 million in infrastructure to do before they can even start building homes. They got to extend Waiale, they got to build a wastewater treatment plant, and they've got to build a water delivery system. So that's just kind of basically where we are. So as Ken said, I recently went to work for an affordable housing company that we're kind of focusing just on infill projects. That's sort of, we're going a much smaller scale. So what's before you right now is one project called Hale Kaiola, which recently got its final approval, final approvals a couple of weeks ago, and it's a 100% affordable housing project in North Kihei. It's at 140% AMI and below, and it's duplexes. Is the other part that we're going to try and do is sell only to locals. We're going to put a component in it that basically you got to have sort of a residency component in order to become a part of the project, at least initially. So that's part of it. And then again, because it's an infill project, it's really a big deal for us to be able to create that sense of community, blend in with the community, make it family friendly, pet friendly, or whatever. So anyways, next slide. So here it is right here. This is North Kihei, Ohukai. For those of you on Maui, you know where it is. It's this very long, skinny parcel. It's about 900 feet long and 155 feet wide. So it had its problems. I mean, it sat for sale. As you guys are all realtors, you probably saw it for sale for years and years and years and years. And so the development team said, hey, listen, let's come up with a concept and try to build duplexes. So next slide. So there's just a more close-up of the project site itself. Used to be a mango orchard. Next slide. So here's kind of conceptually what it is. It's a one-way in and out coming off of Kaiola Drive. Next slide. Some more renderings here. This is the street that you see right now is Kaiola. Next slide. And then there's the internal one-way driveway of duplexes. Next slide. Just renderings. Next slide. Couple of 2 stories. We also had to remove the bottom of one of the 2 stories, or actually, I know what we did is we raised one of the 2 stories for surfboard and bike storage on site. That was one of the things that the Planning Commission asked us to do since it's the proximity to the ocean. So next slide. So this is the other project that is in the works. This is, we actually did this week, we did our first community outreach. And as for those of you on Maui, you can see this is in the Kehalani area, right below Wailuku Heights. And then above, if you see it in the red there, right below that, between the Honoapi'ilani and the red is actually where Everett Dowling is going to be doing Hawaiian Homelands. So I think that you, for those of you on Maui, you probably saw that in the paper a few weeks back. So that's Hawaiian Homelands is going to be below. And then we're carving out a parcel right along Kuikahi, about halfway up, where we're going to be doing a mixed use project. It's going to be about 200 units, about 120 multifamily, 30 duplexes, 28 studios, 6 single families, and then we got 16 live work, where it's going to be, you know, say like a version of commercial downstairs, and then upstairs will be where you live. So trying to do the full range, and all that will be at 120% AMI and below, and again 100% workforce housing. Both of these projects, what we're doing is we're using the County of Maui has a 2.97, what we call our 2.97 100% affordable ordinance, which is the equivalent to the state's 201H. But it's 100% affordable. 201H is 50%. And so anyways, there's some different things that we're doing. So we're going to be going to the community and doing a lot of community outreach starting now and getting their input on what it is that they think of it. And if you could just go to the next slide. So there's sort of a general concept rendering on the top of the slide. You can see Kuikahi coming off of it. Actually, off of Kuikahi, the new design has a roundabout on Kuikahi rather than a street light halfway up. Just the grade to Kuikahi, I think, makes more sense to do a roundabout there rather than a stoplight. And then there's your different types of units that we have all the way, like I said, from the live work. The live work, I think, is the one part that we're really going to try to focus on a lot of our projects, is to give people the ability to generate some income. Even some of the concepts that we're looking at, another project is to allow people to even have their own ohanas rather than us splitting them off and selling those, is let them have the ohanas to, you know, to really create some affordability for the community. That's one of the things that we're really looking forward to doing. And then even the fact that we're going down to studios is part of the thing I think that we're also missing here on Maui, is just the trade up concept, right? You're not going to buy your forever home right straight away. So, you know, let's get into a studio, let's get into a 1-bedroom, and then be able to trade our way up. So that's sort of the concept. And hopefully I stayed under my 5 minutes there, Ken, and that's really all that I have. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Lawrence. Okay, now we'll head on off to Kauai and Milo Spindt. So Milo is the Kauai-based broker in charge, Elite Pacific Properties, and the former chairman of the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation and the Hawaii Public Housing Authority, and the former executive director of the nonprofit Kauai Housing Development Corporation. And also the former manager of the Kauai District Land Office of the Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources. All right, Milo, what's going on in Kauai?
Well, so I'll give a little disclosure there. I used to work with Ian at DLNR, and it was great to see some of the progress they're making there. I am going to talk about what's going on in Kauai, Little Island. Hopefully we've got some stuff going on that you guys can appreciate. So here's our little island. I'm going to talk about some developments ranging all the way from Kapa'a all the way around to the other end of the island on the west side out here to Waimea. Because we're on Kauai, I have to throw in some chicken jokes. You know, the duck was about to cross the road and the chicken looked at him and said, "Don't do it, man. You'll never hear the end of it." And the hardest part about this is I can't hear if anyone's laughing or just shaking their heads. So this is a D.R. Horton project. This is right in Lihue town. They have completed phase 1 of this project, this Kohealoa. Phase 1 was completed in 2019, 151 homes with 12 market price duplexes and 32 affordable duplexes. Affordable duplexes were priced from $430,000 to $450,000. Unfortunately, phase 2 through 4 are on hold. As you can see, there's a lot of units planned for the remaining phases. 72 units with 54 affordable in phase 2, 83 units with 38 affordable in phase 3, and another 134 units with 70 affordable units in phase 4. On hold, D.R. Horton is waiting for clarification from the County of Kauai Housing Office about a recent housing bill amendment, Bill 2774, that went into effect last year, removing 140% of AMI, so the 120 to 140% of AMI from the affordable classification of the housing ordinance. A number of the affordable units they had planned fit into those categories, and so they're waiting for an assessment to see if their original agreement holds or if they have to redo their affordability guidelines. If they are required to meet the new standards, they're saying they may not proceed with the development. So on another one here, Ahe Group, this is the Pu'aloke development. This is on county land. It was put out to bid. This is in partnership with the county and the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation, who controls the low-income housing tax credits that come through the state of Hawaii. There are 3 buildings with a total of 54 units of low-income rental housing. These units will be rented out to people making, I think there is actually some very low income in there. So there are some 30% of AMI, but the majority of the units are going to be 50 to 100% of AMI. And this is right in Lihue town. This is another project that is in planning, and I'm hearing that they're going to go for tax credits through HHFDC here in the next, in this upcoming cycle. This is a Lihue CPB Rice Street. This is, if you know Kauai, it's right next to our county offices and county building. It's right in the heart of Lihue town. This is a mixed use project. It's 1.53 acres that's commercially zoned, 4 stories tall, 62 residential units of allowable density, with just under 16,000 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. One of the things that the Kauai County Planning Department has been working on is something called form-based code, where we're trying to do more mixed-use development, commercial, retail on the ground floor with residential above that. Grow Farm, I had a couple of things Grow Farm's working on. They asked me not to share it because they don't want a rush of calls to them, but they are working on a couple developments, and if you want to follow up with them, you can directly. Both in Lihue and in Kaloa town. This is actually a project that I was working on when I was the executive director at the Kauai Housing Development Corporation, in partnership with the former executive director for Kauai Habitat for Humanity, Stephen Spears, who has opened his own affordable housing development company, Affordable Housing Kauai. The project is called Pu'uwahi Homes. It is in Kalaheo town. Currently, the design specs are for 17 single-family residential homes in a CPR style development. It's a little hard to see depending on your screen size, but there will be a central common driveway and then a parking area that will be shared for all of homes around these areas. These homes will have their own individual parking in this area. It is 2.3 acres. It is zoned commercial, but it is in one of these development areas where the form-based code basically does not give any density. So the limitations in this particular area, there is plenty of water supply. However, there is no sewer. So this entire thing is going to be on, we were designing a packaged sewer plant. The alternative was to use septic systems. This is the County of Kauai's project. It's Limaola. It's been in development for quite a few years, a total of 550 residential units. It's a mix of single family and quite a bit of multifamily. 75 acres total of affordable rentals. The entire project was entitled by the Land Use Commission. This was ag land that was converted into urban. It is limited in its use in that it cannot be used for market rate housing. It can only be used for affordable housing according to the restrictions from the Land Use Commission. Phase 1 is breaking ground now. The county's talking about going out for bid for, in this area here, the first 38 units of single family homes. These 3 properties are going to be commercial multifamily properties. There was a $13 million loan through HHFDC, and as part of the repayment, these properties will probably be deeded back to HHFDC for development of tax credit projects. Phase 2 has another 66 units of single family, 106 of multifamily. Phase 3, 34 units, single family, 102 of rental units. And phase 4 is another 93 rental units. It's going to be a mix of low income and moderate combined with some senior housing, hopefully. This is an adjacent project to the Limaola. This is a project that Kauai Habitat for Humanity is just finishing up. This is Eliali Luna. They are finishing the homes in the very Mauka end of the property right now. 107 new homes that's just being completed. That was purchased in 2007. There was a total of 107 single family homes. Phase 2B is coming to completion now. Amazingly, Kauai Habitat for Humanity is fee simple ownership priced in the $220,000 range. Really, really just incredible how they're able to get the prices down that low through their self-help model. This is another Habitat for Humanity project. This is Waimea Huakai. This is a joint development project. So Habitat for Humanity purchased the entire project and then sold a portion of it to Ahe Group for a tax credit development that was done in partnership again with the county and the state. And then the remaining portion is going to be single family homes, self-help development. It is 6.5 acres, 35 rental units that were just completed. And I think they're taking applications for occupancy now. And this year they're going to be breaking ground as they finish up their LA project on 32 single family homes. They don't have the fixed prices yet, but it's going to probably be in the mid to high 200s to low 300s. So really, really affordable. And then I'm going to skip back. We're going to go all the way back up to Anahola, which is DHHL land. The DHHL lands here in Anahola, they have some farmlands, farm lots. This has been under constant development over the years. The challenge that DHHL has is getting qualified beneficiaries to actually build their homes on the developed properties. This is a development that's been slowly getting built out. Habitat does some construction for homeowners in here. This is a relatively new development, and I swear I'm almost done. There are a number of DHHL 47 occupied homes here, and behind that, there's going to be some further development of property. This is something that DLNR Land Division deeded over to DHHL as part of a settlement agreement. This is it's called phase 2. There will be 75 new residential lots on 157 acres. 157 acres of subsistence agriculture, 26 acres of community use areas, and then 13 acres in the lower portion of Hanapepe that is going to be developed for commercial use. So to give you a summation here, this is kind of relevant for us as we look at who is doing the development. The state, county, and DHHL, government entities, 340 single family home units, 355 multifamily low income rental. private nonprofits and nonprofits are doing 338 single family. Now, this is subject to change in large part based on whether or not D.R. Horton is going to proceed with their project, but only 62 units of multifamily. So that Lahuid project is private in nature. Most of the multifamily development, because of the cost of development and low rents, is all being done by government. There are more projects in the pipeline. There's a development in Kapa'a that is trying to get through the Land Use Commission. They're hitting a lot of barriers there. There are some that are looking to do development in Kaloa. They're having affordability mandate issues. And then our biggest issue on Kauai continues to be our infrastructure, our water supply, and then our limited sewer capacity throughout the county. And so one more bad joke before I go, another chicken joke. One more Bach joke. Bach, Bach, Bach. Thank you.
Thanks, Milo. Okay, we will again go now back to Oahu, to Kaka'ako. I should mention that we weren't able to get someone from the Big Island, but we will do another presentation in the future, and we will include the Big Island as well. So let me introduce Bonnie Wedemeyer. Okay, she's the Executive Vice President of Sales and Strategy, the Howard Hughes Corporation. Prior to joining Howard Hughes Corporation, Bonnie worked for Centrix Destination Properties, Hire and Associates, and Ward Village. Since 2008, she has managed more than $3 billion in sales throughout many projects in Honolulu. And Bonnie will then introduce Race Randle. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Thanks, Ken. I'm originally from the Big Island, so hopefully that counts as your Big Island part today. I'm very happy to say that Race Randle is here today, so you're not going to see me talking about renderings and prices and all of that. Race has been part of building this community for the last 9 years, SVP of Planning and Development, and he's here to, I think, talk to us about the community improvements that I think you'll find interesting as a realtor, but as a citizen of Honolulu. When you drive by and you enjoy this area, we wanted to show you what's happening and also our upcoming phases. So please welcome one of our leaders in development, Race Randle.
Thanks for having us, and I appreciate the opportunity to share an update on Ward Village always. And it's great to hear all of the developments that are happening around the state. In light of time, I think I'll try to be as brief as possible and really try to give people a good overview of what's happening in the neighborhood, especially hearing about a lot of new developments. You know, for Ward Village, it's really about redevelopment and redeveloping in the urban area. As the image shows here, our primary focus is on creating that neighborhood in the heart of Honolulu. And, you know, as a quick overview, the company itself, Victoria Ward Limited, is how we operate here in Hawaii. We have 75 primarily local staff members that oversee everything from planning and development of the new properties through the sales, through the operation of the property. And our focus is that community building in the urban core, something that we get to look back at the legacy of the Ward family as the reason we have the opportunity. The 60 acres that we're now focused on master planning and developing is land that the family held together for over 100 years in order to have that large amount of land in the urban core that could be planned and developed. For those who remember, you know, up until development really started in 2010 in earnest, the property was primarily 1- and 2-story industrial buildings, fragmented retail, shopping, some food and beverage, a lot of surface parking lots, and light industrial uses. And in 2009, a master plan was approved, effectively allowing mixed-use development and residential development to occur on the property. It covers about 26 or 27 city blocks throughout the neighborhood. And what's I think special right now is we're at this tipping point, this halfway point, where the neighborhood is really coming to life with the projects that have been completed, along with the amenity spaces that are there to support the residential use. So as we focus on it, we look at it as building community, and that for us takes on kind of 4 key tenets. The first being community improvements, the areas between the blocks and between the buildings. A big focus on economic stimulus that I know is needed now in creating and supporting local jobs and local businesses. Obviously for this group, a big focus on the residential use, on homes, and making sure that we're providing housing to supply multiple sectors of the market at the same time in a relatively small space. So that means offering different product types, everything from different amenity offerings to different home sizes and studios, 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms, penthouses, you name it, but always trying to offer product that's on the market that Bonnie and her team have to sell to buyers that are looking to live in the urban core. The luxury of that is when we're successful, we're able to focus our efforts on giving back. And we've focused a lot on philanthropic giving in the past years. I'll give you some visuals. I like to show a lot of slides that show really before and after. But if you were here in 2009, this is what it was looking like as they were building up at that time, the initial intended location for Whole Foods. But it gives you a good idea of the transformation that'll be occurring as we build out Ward Village, focusing on creating more walkable streets, a more natural environment, and literally peeling back acres of asphalt in order to bring a natural environment back to the urban core. Another thing that people have probably experienced if they've come down to Ward is we spend a lot of effort on programming. So as we create new open spaces in areas that typically weren't thought of as residential environments, we often program them. So we offer farmers markets on a weekly basis and other activities to help encourage people to come down to the neighborhood. And the other key thing that we do, especially as the brokers know, is focusing on community improvements that make it walkable. So in addition to the restaurants and the entertainment, those key neighborhood services like the grocery store and the drugstore that we bring into the neighborhood to make it truly walkable so people don't have to get in their cars to get their daily needs. I'll jump ahead to our next phase to give you an idea of what we're looking at. And this image does a great job of articulating what our next phase is all about, and that is open space. It's a big focus on peeling back that asphalt and creating that more natural environment. In this next phase, we're actually building 2 parks, one new one and a big expansion of our current park. And to give you an idea of where that's happening, we'll look at the whole Kaka'ako neighborhood. Apologies for the airplanes. It's Kona winds today, so I think they're landing over Honolulu. The Kaka'ako neighborhood's effectively bounded in this green area, and Ward Village shown here in yellow. The 2 projects that we're focused on for our next phase, the first is called Ulana Ward Village, located here, bounded by Pohukaina Street and Oahe Street. And the second called the Park Ward Village, which will be really in the center location of Ward Village along Oahe Street and Halekuila. This is Ward Avenue, if you're familiar, and Ala Moana Boulevard to give you a sense of the location. Whole Foods is here. And what this image shows is, as Kamehameha Schools is worked on as well, is bringing a lot of those neighborhood services to the Kaka'ako area, from preschools to grocery stores to retail and entertainment. The Ulana project, to give you an idea, we like to do a little bit of what we call a layer cake, but if you start it with the site, we can walk you through how we're building it, and we look at almost every project the same way. The first thing we need to do is create that activation space and the parking space that supports residential use. In this case, a parking structure that'll have street front commercial use and light industrial. We then add in a efficient tower, a high-rise tower form that will have the homes in it. And when we do that, and a big focus of ours is being very efficient with our land use, because what's left over when we create the homes and the parking structures that support them is generally open space. In this case, the Eva Plaza, as shown on the right-hand side, Kala'i o Kukulu'aio Park, as we've named it in the past few weeks. This will be a public park open to the neighborhood, similar to a public park near the Ko'olani project, playground, and really focused on creating a great space for the neighborhood to enjoy. Also at the ground level, because of that efficient planning, we've added a new recreation space at the ground level to support the residents who live here. So that'll be a private recreation space for their use. And as you walk around the project, what you'll see in the coming years as we develop it is a fairly big change from what's there today. I mentioned changing the pavement to park space. This is that view on Kamani Street. As you walk down Awahi Street today, this is where Awahi Street currently terminates, looking in the west direction. And a big part of this project, and you'll see in the next, is again about really bringing that natural environment back, creating walkable streets, in this case, adding bike lanes and other uses to encourage multimodal transportation. And along Pohukaina Street, a change from kind of the back of industrial buildings today to a more active environment, lining it with retail below our parking structures, so that in this case, it has a protected outdoor space for if it's food and beverage that's offering outdoor dining, a unique opportunity for people to get outside, but also activate the street at the same time. So that's the Ulana project. And I'll walk you through the next one, which is the Parkward Village. And for us, you know, it's been a lot of effort to plan this project in order to do the same thing, which is to provide as much open space as we can to the neighborhood. As we've heard from a lot of stakeholders and a lot of owners and brokers as well, is really appreciating the green space that's been created. Just that feeling of having an open lawn and a shaded area outside in a relatively urban environment is such a great thing for the neighborhood. So when we planned this site, which is between Awahi Street and the future Halekuila Street, the first thing we'll be doing, which is a fairly large improvement for the area, is we're building new streets. We're realigning Awahi Street and adding a Halekuila Street extension. The next thing we do at the ground floor is you've actually created a ground floor that's shown in kind of a salmon color here, that's wrapped with retail on all four sides. So when you come to this building, when it's built, you'll see we actually have a space for commercial food and beverage all the way around the building. And what that allows us to do is expand the current park that's there today, and then wrap the building with effectively a park, hence the name, the Parkward Village. And as we do with most of our market rate projects, in this case, we'll be providing a recreation space for the residents. That's another park on top of the parking garage that becomes the amenity space. That's the Parkward Village. And in addition to it, you'll see in these upcoming images, the new size of Victoria Ward Park is allowing us to come back and redevelop it to add in some additional programming and really take advantage of that additional space to be the heart of the neighborhood. It will be surrounded by retail on both sides, and will become a nice, welcoming environment, especially compared to what's there today. If you go down, this is the backside of the former Sports Authority, and a big difference as it's transformed into a new retail environment that has a covered space over it. This is a view looking Mackay towards the ocean. Similarly, on the backside, looking to the west, as we add in new streets downtown that'll connect people from the Whole Foods, which would be just behind you in this shot, and able to get to and from downtown on Halekuila Street. The homes, as you see, generally will start on the second floor with that ground level space in this building made for retail and food and beverage. And then the biggest changes will be happening along Awahi Street with a lot of road construction as we have to realign that road. This is a view of what it'll look like as it's redeveloped, but definitely focused on creating an active pedestrian environment that'll be along the frontage of the building, as articulated, I think, better in this image, showing that lit up retail space at the ground level and the residential homes that start on the second floor going up. I'll kind of close with this, but as we focus on community, again, we get to not only create one, but offer these additional benefits to the broader economy. We're creating new parks, we're enhancing the walkability. In these two projects, they'll provide over 1,200 new homes. That's in addition to the homes that we have under construction today and over 1,300 that we've already built. Interesting today is of the homes that we've built, 27% of them have been affordable or reserved housing of the homes that are already completed. And the Ulana project is focused on front loading a significant portion of the reserved homes required for Ward Village. Actually 697 homes that are intended to all be marketed and reserved for local buyers at certain income segments between 100% and 140% of the area median income. The economic stimulus is quite large for these projects. It represents about $1 billion worth of new development just between these two projects. And that equates to, at the peak year, over 1,300 jobs during construction. And another key thing to note is, when these projects are completed, a large number of jobs are created from that commercial activity and the operation of the buildings. In this case, over 250 from those two buildings alone. And that's in addition as well to the 3 buildings that we currently have in development in the center of our property. So I know we're running a bit behind time and happy to answer any questions, but I wanted to kind of walk everyone through that and then obviously, close with an appreciation for how the neighborhood is coming together with the amenities in the area, the schools, a focus by the state on developing a new public elementary school in Kaka'ako that I know has been underway for many years, but appreciate the time to share what we have going on with this group. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bonnie and Race. I just want to add that the projects that we're highlighting today, that it's just the tip of the iceberg of proposed housing projects. We have others that we couldn't get to today, but we'll probably do it in a future presentation. But again, Haseko's Royal Kunia expansion, that's 1,850 units. You got Stanford Cars, Kamehameha Drive-In project, 1,401. DHHL, the Bolojone project, 270 units. Brookfield Properties, the Alamana Plaza, 583 units. Aloha Stadium, yet to be determined, but we know there's going to have a housing component there. Aloha Homes, which is a legislative proposal. Again, that's 22,500 units. Although this is not providing additional housing, it's going to, the remake of Mayor Wright housing will pump in $1.3 billion into our economy. So why don't we get to the questions? And if everyone else can turn on their video screen, that'd be great. But I will let everyone know that as an organization, we are, again, lobbying the legislature during the 2021 session. So we've been meeting with legislators and pointing out that really the residential real estate market has shown tremendous resilience and strength and during these tough times. And this is a sector that can really help to lead our state's economic recovery. So, our theme of build our future, we've been going out there telling the legislators, don't stop the momentum. We can work with you, we can work with developers to really support the construction of housing. And we're talking about it all price points so we can meet our housing goals. But this one question came in that says, how can our organization and our members help you to reach your goals as far as your project? We want to be as helpful as possible. Any ideas and constructive ways that we can be involved to make sure that your projects get built? Anyone can answer. Chris, Ren, Race?
I would, sure can. I'm happy to maybe jump in and start first. I would say, development is generally, it's always fairly contentious. When you're adding, when there's change that's happening, particularly in communities that, have looked the same for many years. I think, Kaka'ako, obviously there's been a tremendous amount of change over the last 20, 30 years. But I think overall, most people have gotten used to the development and sort of understand the benefits that that development can bring. But when we look at areas for us in particular, for Kamehameha schools, when we look at Kapalama or Kanohe or Waiava or Waipahu, new development represents a lot of change, and people, always have concern of that and get uncomfortable with that, between adding traffic, which a lot of these projects will do, even with the rail, concerns about density and height, so I would say, and then also about affordable housing. You look at what happened to Makani and Kailua, and trying to push through an affordable housing project in that community, and we all know what happened. So I think just being supportive of the development that's coming. I mean, obviously we need to hold developers ourselves, all of us, accountable for what we do, but we really need the community's support, because you shut the door behind you, you're not going to get more housing, and we're going to keep losing our kids and the brain drain that goes along with that. So,
Well said. Anyone else want to jump in?
I'll just real quickly, Christine Camp is another developer and Avalon with Avalon Group, and she's promoting, and I'm going to help her promote this idea of yesism. We need more support. And the biggest obstacle when a developer goes in front of the Land Use Commission or a county planning commission or DPP or county council is that there's a lot of negative testimony that's given out. So what we really need from our community, from realtors especially, but our realtor clients as well, is for them to get out there and help support. That we can't, after the fact, support a project, right? We got to get out and testify and support it. At the same time that the NIMBYs are trying to beat projects down, we need to get out there and support the projects through yesism. Yes, we need that development. Yes, we need more housing.
And
go ahead.
I'll just add to that. One of the great things about the technology advancements that have come through all the work from home is, getting active and supporting projects is relatively easy now. I mean, it used to be you'd have to go down to some room, find parking, and wait, 3 hours to be called up. Now you can submit email testimony or testimony with a few clicks. So I just bring that up because for this group, and seeing 90+ people on the call is definitely big support of what's been said, and know that it's very easy to provide support in written form for these projects.
If I could just, I guess, say the same thing. If the realtors, especially at the local level, all politics is local, become YIMBYs, yes, in my backyard. I know we talked about that, Ken. It's easy to say no. I have a 4-year-old. 4-year-old can say no, control the world. Yes is hard. Yes takes thought. Yes takes accountability. Yes takes effort. No is easy. And so it's easy to get people out to say no to something. And it's difficult to get people to come out and say yes to something. So I think that the realtors can really lead the charge on that, and maybe even specifically start taking a stance on individual projects, which I know, at least here on Maui, doesn't do. But it can be extremely helpful if that's what we need.
Good, great advice. Okay, so it looks like we've reached the end of our webinar time, and I know there's still some questions over here, and we'll try to get the questions answered and send it directly to those that asked the questions. So we'll get to those questions. Yeah, we get it. So thank you very much. And so for us, the message is clear. When you combine all the different projects that we have, for the future, this is a great opportunity for us as our industry to really help to lead the state's recovery efforts. And so, again, with all of the bad things that have happened, I think we can look at the strong residential real estate market as an opportunity for us to lead the way. So mahalo to the presenters, and thank you everyone for listening, and let's get to work and build our future.